All right, guys, getting ready to go over the front squat here. So we're going to go over proper technique, purpose, and kind of a concept that you can use in any bar variation you have of your squatting. It's just kind of, the bar moves along the horizontal plane. We'll get more of that in a second. Proper mobility with the front squat. You are going to need a front rack position, or at least be able to hold the bar right here. So that's lat, tricep, rear delt, a little bit of teres. You want to make sure you can get all the way under the bar. If it helps you, if your wrist hurts at all or forearm mobility is bad, put the thumb over the top of the bar. You don't have to wrap the thumb. So, when performing a front squat, you don't want the bar to rest on the sternum. You don't want the elbows to be straight down. You want the elbows to be high, and the front rack position should be. You should be able to have the elbows up. So this is a much more vertical bar path than some other squats. Gonna push the hips back, push the knees out, right parallel, drive straight up. All right, keep your core tight. A lot of times, this is a quad dominant movement, but a lot of times people with midline stability, either in their core or the lumbar erectors, this is really, really good to help build that strength up. One thing we're going to talk about is on the board right here. When you move your bar from a low bar to high bar to a front squat, your bar position changes or on a horizontal plane. So it's further down your spine on a low bar in this direction, and it's lower technically on the back. As you go higher on the back, you load the erectors a little more because you're moving on the horizontal plane. Same thing is true for the front rack position. In the front rack, which is the one we're mainly talking about on the front squat, it will also act as a counterweight, which is one, why you can stay more vertical, but two, really good for rehabilitation. So outside of the application for core strength and erector and quad, you can use this to retrain the squat. It requires a little bit less mobility because you have the counterweight. Generally, you can push the hips back a little further if you need to train ankle mobility or hip mobility. You can get a little lower and a little easier because of it acting as a counterweight. So just kind of keep these in mind when you're doing the squat variations. But for the front squat, great for rehabilitation, training mobility, good way to push the knees out, learn how to squat correctly, use your glutes. An inactive glute is really, really hard to fix in a squat for some people. This is a great way to do it because you can stay more vertical. The hip stays, in a little bit more extension. You're not super bent over at the top of a front squat. You're not super bent over in any of a front squat where you shouldn't be. So generally, it's easier to teach glute flexion if someone has issues with that. So great rehabilitative and great strengthening for the erectors, for the quads, and for the core. Highly recommend for newer lifters. Highly, highly, highly recommend for newer lifters, especially when teaching squat mechanics. There's your front squat.